Hello, everybody. I was thinking about talking in Arabic, but I think there are quite a few people who don't speak Arabic, so I'll be speaking probably English with a few Arabic words in between. My name is Hussein Salama, and thank you, Muhammad, for the introduction. I'm not the chief research officer. I'm just I have a small team of researchers in Egypt, and actually my current role is to enable them to produce and to do good stuff. I think I used to be a researcher a while back. But let me start, but maybe back to the 70s and 80s when I was a kid, and to give you a bit an idea about myself. I grew up in Egypt. I think I went to some good schools, but my parents at that time were typical of all Egyptian parents, were both government employees in different capacities. So I grew up in a kind of a socialist system where I did not know what really a company represents, what our profit sheets or balance sheets are, and so on. I had no idea what that stuff is. And then after I finished my schooling here, I went to the US for graduate studies, and I started learning about this fascinating world, right? And doing my PhD, I thought, okay, that's going to be the end of it. I'm not an academic guy. I went to the industry. I started working there. Also got an MBA in the process, and I got really fascinated by the world I'm seeing around me. I studied computer science. I forgot to say that. So after my PhD, I moved to the Silicon Valley, worked for one of the very successful companies there, and Silicon Valley is everybody, even though you work for a big company, part of your career needs to go to the startups. But at the same time, I wanted to move back to Egypt, which I did in 2002. Wanted to do a startup, so second half of 2000s, like 2007, it was about time, and I thought, okay, it's time, let's take the dive and do the startup thing, right? And that was a great experience. It was a failure, but I think I learned from these like 3.5 years, much more than I learned from any other 3.5 years, maybe even double that time, 7 or 10 years in my life. So, and when Salim, I'm not sure where Salim is, when Salim asked me to present, I started going to the TED Talks, which I viewed some of them before already, and there are quite a few well-known people who talk about their success stories, be it here in Egypt at other TED events or in other places of the world. So I said, okay, what am I going to talk about here? You know, so the twist was really to say, okay, I'm going to share my failure. And I think I talk about it with passion with lots of people. It's not the first time I talk about it. It's the first time I talk about it publicly. But I think there's a lot to be learned from the failures. It's very painful, but there's a lot to be learned from it. So my story is really about starting a technology company here in Egypt. And I'm going to talk about my own mistakes. I'm not going to talk about the system, you know. The system, I think, when somebody does something, you have to know what the system around you is, and you have to just accept it. Or maybe part of your mission is to change it, right? For me, it was, okay, I knew the rules of the game. I know some of the laws, how they facilitate or don't facilitate a startup in this place. And I accepted that, and I started. So it's really about me. Startups, there are different definitions of what it takes for a startup to succeed, a startup company. I'll use one of them. They told me that, or they taught me that there are 3 pillars for any startup. There's the team, there's the funding, and there's the business concept. And it takes all these 3 for a startup to succeed. So let me tell you my story. So in 2007, I had this idea, which I think was a great idea around mobile advertising. And I went ahead and I started a company. I hired a great team. So let's start with the team. I hired a great team, some brilliant engineers. We spent the next 3.5 years together building a great product, which got very good reviews from many places around the world. But there was a problem with that. I hired engineers who were all younger, less senior than I am, and I really failed to hire co-founders or partners. So the engineers, whatever I told them to do, they did, and they did it very, very well. But nobody really challenged me, and nobody really complimented me. I'm an engineer. I got an MBA, but I'm still an engineer. I understand how to do some operational stuff, but I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a marketing person, and I failed to hire somebody who compliments me with that respect. So that was the first thing. The other aspect of having co-founders is also to challenge, because nothing really goes, if you plan to head in this direction, it's very rare for a company, even people in their lives, to continue heading in that same direction all the time. Sometimes you'll hit bumps and you have to go left and right. And with these, you have to make decisions. And you need people to help you with these decisions, to give you other perspectives, to give you, to challenge you, for you to arrive at the right decision. And that's another aspect that I missed there. I cannot blame anybody. I can only blame myself that I couldn't really get anybody who's senior enough, experienced enough, excited about joining me. So that was number one. Number two is really the funding. The funding is, I think, what I learned in the process is you either decide to bootstrap the company. Bootstrap يعني نشد الأحزمة على البطون وخلاص ما فيش فلوس let's do it the cheapest way possible, which in the US they say I started my company in the garage, really bootstrapped, didn't pay anything. Or if you want to get funding, get some good funding so that you're relaxed, taking it easy, focused on the work. Anything in between, in my opinion, based on my experience, is a distraction. I didn't know it in advance, but I think the problem that I hit at the very beginning is that I went to some they call it friends and family funding, and raised some money. Not a lot of money, but it was money to just get me started. And in return, I gave up a significant percentage of my share in the company, which was okay in itself, giving up a share. But I was kind of always, short on money. And that was a problem. That was a big problem. Another part of the story, I'm not sure if it's a part of the failure or the success, but getting money from friends and family was a weird experience, actually, because my friends trust me, and trust is good. I was free. I had a free hand to do whatever I wanted to do. But at the same time, again, I had nobody. They were the investors I had. Nobody really challenged me. So it's again the lack of challenge that I faced because of lack of partners. Even the investors I had didn't challenge me. They trusted me so much that it was like getting them in one room once a year to review the finances and how we're doing was tough. So good and bad. Continuing on the funding, also, I think what I failed to do afterwards is really to raise further money. I tried to do that. I think probably I was not pragmatic enough with that respect. There are certain places in this country where I could have gotten some money from, but they played with certain rules which I couldn't just take. And I think an entrepreneur who wants to get to a goal or an objective needs to be more pragmatic. So one example is there's an institution that used to give funding for startups or for companies, but you needed to have somebody in the academia as a partner because you needed to present your work partly as a research work or groundbreaking work. And I just couldn't take that. My work, we did it on our own. We didn't need an academic partner. I think in retrospect, okay, be it. Let's get an academic partner and let's get the money and move on, right? So that was another aspect. I think the second aspect is really the funding. Then there's the business concept, and we started off doing very, very well there. I think in 2007, getting into mobile advertising was a great time. I remember going to a conference in 2007, in March 2007, and there were like 3 or 4 companies at most who said or claimed that they had a product in that domain. I went to another very big conference in 2008, and like every second company on demo floor had products around mobile advertising. So the timing was really great, but I think we didn't have an ambitious enough business plan. There are different ways to monetize this product or this area of mobile advertising. One of them is you sell your product once. And you make some money, and then you try to sell it to another entity and the third entity, and so on. The better model, which I think, if you see how the apps work on the smartphones right now, is you go for a subscription. You pay every month or every year for the usage of these apps, right? And that was already emerging at that time. But we didn't do that. We didn't do that. We just opted for, let's make some quick money, try to sell the product, and move on. So I think the business concept was not flexible, was not ambitious enough. The other thing is, I think I was not flexible enough. So I felt I need to be tenacious. I need to really have the stamina and continue pushing the same idea again and again, and try to, do my best. I think in retrospect, I think trying to be flexible, accept the changes in the market, opportunities that emerge, maybe grab opportunities that emerge, would have been much better. We made one change, maybe a year into the life of the company. One major change where, after I felt that I'm based here in Egypt, I realized that the potential customers who are the big mobile operators are followers in our part of the world. So I need to sell abroad, right? And without much cash, I wasn't able to really reach these operators abroad. So I went for a different model. I decided that, we'll just open source the code we develop. The core part of our product, we open source. Open sourced it for those of you who don't know, is really, make the code available for anybody who wants to download it and use it. And then around it, there were some extra features that we offered for premium services. We never made money out of any of this. So we did that change. But there were other changes that could have happened. For example, one of them is really the iPhone came out. This apps story came out. We could have really went into developing apps, and by then we would have been one of the very early players at least in Egypt or this region to develop apps. Another thing that really presented itself very heavily to me was that it seems because of the way I am, once I started a company, I was approached by different people from different places, like to do projects for them. And all of them were entrepreneurs. 3 of them were startups or people who were about to start companies in the US, so very, very early stage. 1 in the UK, 1 in Germany. And they asked me to help them to get their companies off the ground. And I did that for all 5 of them. But I looked at it always as a distraction. I did not try to build on that, even though it was like 1 company or 1 entrepreneur, the second, the third, fourth, fifth. I just looked at it as a distraction, and I did not want to make a business out of it. Just to give you the idea what happened to these 5 companies, 4 of them shut down, but 1 of them was a big success. So I think we could have benefited, and we benefit from that at the end. So I think I missed some opportunities. I was really driving very hard, and sometimes you have to step back and see how things are. Just also to give you a sense how my thinking was at that time, there was a startup which also shut down, trying to build a social network for entrepreneurs called Chubby Brain, chubbybrain.com. I think the website is down now. So Chubby Brain approached me and wanted to interview me at that time. So I had a very lengthy interview. I answered lots of questions. And part of my answers was, a startup is like running long distance, like running a marathon. You really have to have the stamina. You must plan your energy, how to spend your energy to make it. And in retrospect, I think that was wrong. That was wrong. If you ask me if I give an advice to an entrepreneur today, I'd say treat it maybe as a soccer game. I think a soccer game, you still need the stamina. You need to have a plan, but you need the teamwork, and also you need a lot of maneuvering. I think there's a lot of بالعربي بنرقص لازم نقعد نرقص في الكورة. You need to maneuver عشان to really make it. It's not going to go straight to achieve your goal. So I think I was wrong with that respect. Okay, so just to what happened? What happened at the end? So once we decided to go for the open source model, things were very good, went very well, very well. Like media started writing about us. There is a company which we use part of their technology. They promoted us. One of the, I don't want to mention names, but a global system integrator based in the US, they approached us and partnered with us, and we started bidding together for projects from, I think, from Thailand to Pakistan to Egypt, different places. But things were happening very slow, and we did not have much cash. The other thing, just also to tell you how good the technology was, is that we went into trials. So operators usually do technical trials to evaluate the different technologies or vendors before they buy something. And we did very well. We were at par with the best vendors that offered these products. But again, the big name sells. The smaller name was, or maybe I was not a salesman enough to finish a sale. But there are aspects where we did very well. And of course, the initial seed money that I got from friends was over. I was funding the company from these projects I told you about. And the company got into what I call survival mode, right? It was surviving. Some months I almost didn't know how I'm gonna pay my people, but I did at the end. And I think it could have survived like that for maybe 3, 4, or 10 other years. But that was not the plan. I came from the Silicon Valley. I wanted to hit it big, maybe multiple millions. And that was not the plan. So at the end, I had the opportunity to join my current employer, which I think is a great opportunity. And I shut it down. It's really a great experience, a great experience. So that's my story. I hope it benefits people. I'd love to see people start companies, not just in technology, but in other places, in other areas, technology, medicine, any other domains, And that's how I got to know Salem, and he's the one who invited me, because of his starting up something. So I'd love to see people start up companies and take on entrepreneurship seriously. And I think that the environment also is changing. Things are getting more better and better here. One last thing, and I think that's probably the most painful, but I left it to the last. So I said there were 3 pillars for a startup, right? There's the team, there's the funding, and then there's the business concept. I think there's so if we put these as a triangle, I think there's one that needs to be at the core of it, which I didn't mention yet. And I'm pretty sure some of you must be thinking about it, because it's really the passion. It's really the passion to get it to succeed. And I have to admit, in retrospect, I must not have had passion enough, because I think even though some of the pillars were lacking, but I think with passion, some people could have worked around it. So I think passion can fix some of the things, can make things work. And it's probably the one at the core. I cannot describe what happened, what didn't happen, because it's very subjective, But it's something that people need to have. If you're driven by passion, I think you'll get it done. Okay. Thank you.